What's up guys, Pittsburgh White Schwartz back again with another Rush Rundown video. This time we're going to be going over Kantai collection in the English competitive metagame. This is going to be a quick, concise overview of Kantai's strengths, weaknesses, and notable cards that you need to know about in order to effectively play into it. While these aren't meant to be totally comprehensive, we've included a lot of information in these videos, so feel free to pause it if we're going a little too fast. So basically the main concept of Kantai is you're going to be having generally beefy, strong characters that are going to be holding board very effectively, not only having strong back row supports, but through backups from your hand. Kantai is notable for being able to hold power cross-turn, which a lot of sets can't do, but they have a lot of effects that let them do that. Also notable, they don't really need reverses for any of their combos. Your walling strategies probably won't be as effective against them as you'd like. Moving into the first card, we have the package of Zi1 Destroyer cards. These are going to comprise mainly your back row. These are the cards that will allow you to pump power of your characters. The 1-0 going to give you a global power pump. 0-0 is going to allow you to tap it to give 1500 power to any character for the turn. And whenever you use act abilities, your characters are going to get even stronger. So playing into this, you got to really watch out for your opponent's counter step, as their backups, while they just have 1-0 1500 backups, they're actually going to be backing up for a lot more than that because of all the different areas they're getting their power from. So it's very important to, before you go to your attack step, take a moment and take inventory of their field. Make sure to do your combat math correctly. On the topic of the counter step, the next card is Compass. It is probably the most notable card in Kantai, and one of the things keeping it really relevant even today. When you use this card, it's a counter event, so you can use it on your opponent's turn, and when you use it, you mill 3 cards from the top of your deck, and if there is a climax among those cards, your opponent will choose one of your characters and say it does not deal any damage this turn. That includes damage it would deal from its attack or from any burn effects it has. It's particularly very good against any restander finisher or something that burns on reverse like a Yukina. So if you're playing a deck with a finisher of one of these types, try to keep track of their compasses and where they're at and know that it's a card that they're probably going to be holding against you, so try to play around it if you can. Even when they don't hit a climax with the compass, the card is still good even when it misses, because it's still going through cards from the top of your deck and getting them that much closer to a climax to cancel with. So it will really help them live at level 3 to be able to swing back at you for game. Next up, going into level 2s, you can expect to see the Tai Ho Armored Class Aircraft Carrier, Tai Ho Chi. She is an early play. You can early play this card if you have 2 or less climaxes in your waiting room, and it heals when it comes into play. It also punishes you for using act abilities. Whenever you use an act ability, this Kantai card gets 15 extra power every time you act. If you brainstorm on your turn, or even if you back up on their turn, this card is going to get stronger. So again, you really need to do your combat math very carefully with this set, or you can really fuck yourself. On to a couple notable tech cards that Kantai will often run. We have Hibiki. This card says when it becomes reversed, your opponent can pay 1 to put it into their memory, and if they do, they can early play this card off to the side from their waiting room, but most of the Kantai decks will not play this card. Usually they run it for the second effect, which says if it's in your memory, neither player can heal unless they pay 2 cards from their stock in order to do so. Oftentimes this is going to be teched in to stop you from healing in the late game. If your opponent is playing the early play Tai Ho from the previous card I mentioned, probably won't have to worry about this card too much, as this is a symmetric effect that hits your opponent as well, so they would have to pay the heal tax as well. The next card that also is a very anti-meta card is the Tsukasa. She gives a global 500 power bonus to your opponent's field. During the attack phase, if you were to salvage a character from your waiting room to your hand, all of your characters would get -3 soul for the turn. So if you're playing a deck with an on-reverse combo that salvages, something like Love Live Sunshine, or something that runs a lot of gate triggers like Gungale Online or Goblin Slayer, keep an eye out if they have this card in their back row, because if you grab a character back from your waiting room, your attacks are going to deal no further damage that turn. And just one other archetype to quickly mention within Kantai, there is a completely separate deck, the Abyssal Fleet deck. It shares none of the cards with the Kantai cards mentioned previously, as Deep Sea is trait locked. General game plan is to kill your board outside of combat with card effects. That's going to usually be with their level 1 combo that you see here that allows them to, in particular, hit your back row cards. So if you're playing against Abyssals, don't overextend and play important level 0 back row cards. before you need to. It's important to hold these cards in your hand and not just slam your Brainstormers down or your back row assists as soon as you draw them, because you're opening yourself up to getting blown out if you do that. Hold them until you need to play them, or if you do want to play them early, stagger how you're playing them so you don't get blown out by the level 1 combo. The only other notable thing about this deck is they have a Restander finisher that gets pretty big in the center row. Otherwise, it's not too threatening of a deck. Certain counters that you need to worry about in the Kantai matchup, you're really only going to see the first two would really be considered staple in the Kantai deck. The first two you see are just vanilla 1500 counters. They're going to run either or depending on what color fix they need. And Compass, again, is a linchpin to their late game strategy, allowing Kantai to survive a lot longer than it should. And they can even start doing this at level 1, so it's going to be a grindy game. The other two you see here, you have a general 3000 power backup with the yellow card that allows your opponent to make you mill 3 cards when they play it, and then the Deep Sea counter, which is a traditional anti-change counter, which is something that normal Kantai does not have access to. As far as bombs and board clearing power goes, one of the Z cards I mentioned earlier is one of their early play killers as well. Whenever the Kantai player uses an act ability, that card gets plus 500 power multiplied times the number of fleet girl characters on their field. And then if the character it's attacking is level 3 or higher, it gets 3000 extra power until the end of your turn. With a full field, this is going to be swinging into your early play with 12,000 power, plus whatever other buffs they get from their other back row cards. The fact that it keeps the power bonus until the end of your turn is something to watch out for. Don't forget that, especially since the Kantai player can then use a backup on top of it and get all the power buffs again. It will get extra big on defense if they swing it into one of your early plays. The other card is Deep Sea card. That is just a traditional anti-change bomb. Looking at the common builds for Kantai collection, the one on the left is the most common one you're going to see. It is the green-red build. It focuses on the Prinz Eugen combo at level 1, which is an on-attack combo. They can pay 1 and search their deck for any character and add it to their hand. Prinz will get 2000 extra power until the end of your turn. So again, when you're swinging back, watch out because it's still going to have the extra power and they can use a backup on it. And generally, they're going to run this into the level 3 Kashima finisher, which is an on-reverse combo that burns you. Fleet of the Deep Sea deck, again, you're probably not going to run into this one as often. They're going to try to blow up your back row with their level 1 combo, and then they have a generic Restander that gets big in their center lane. Putting it all together, the set has a Riki, although it is an on-reverse Riki, so they can't do it on command on their turn. It is something to keep in mind when you're trying to clear their field going into level 1. They generally don't run typical anti-change or bombs, but they do have very good early play killing power with Zi1. Most popular build you're going to run into is the Prinz Eugen and Kashima build, which is stock Soul Gate, although you could really see any number of combos at the top end, whether it just be relying on Musashi's or using the Akagi finisher, which is a clock shooter. Common denominator, though, is that they all require some sort of reverse, but you're always going to see the Prinz combo at level 1. Most valuable cards in the deck are Prinz level 1 combo, which does not require reverse, and the Akatsuki that the set has, which allows them to discard a card and look at 4 cards for any card when they play it. Very good mill power and card selection on their first deck. The strong points of Kantai collection is that the deck has good filtering power with the Akatsuki as well as any other filtering effects, and is very strong on the defense with lots of backups and Compass to allow them to live into the late game. The set's weak points are probably that its finishers aren't the greatest. They do a good enough job to get there, but the finishing power of the set is definitely not what Kantai is known for. Also, the fact that even though the set has really good filtering tools that I mentioned before, the set does not have a traditional Brainstormer, which can sometimes leave your opponent stranded with stock or not enough ways to get through their deck in a more conventional way, which can sometimes hamstring them a little bit. And as the metagame shifts to more standby focus, Kantai, being a deck that vies for board, will potentially have a little bit of trouble clearing the opponent's standbys. It's very necessary for Kantai to win board, but they do not have access to standby themselves. So if you put a big level 2 in front of them, they might have trouble reversing it. And that's basically Kantai Collection. If you liked this video or felt like you learned anything, please drop a like and feel free to leave a comment and let us know if there's any secrets you know in this matchup that could really help other people out. We'll be releasing more Rush Rundowns every Monday and Wednesday, and our usual deck techs on Friday. Along with all these links we drop at the end of our videos, we also link some sample deck lists. So if you want to check out my deck tech that I've done on green-yellow Kantai Collection, typical build, feel free to click on that and check that out. And with that, I think we're done. Pittsburgh White Schwartz signing off, and we'll see you in the next one.